Alright folks, welcome to what is probably going to be the last episode of this season 6, episode 81 with Jens Gebel. When I started this podcast, I remember thinking how making it audio only is priority one. There were a couple of instances, a couple of points I wanted to drive home. One, lesser screen time and also enhance listening skills. And I remember towards the very beginning, one of the earliest episodes, I was having this conversation with one of my founding guests, Rez Abbasi, shout out to Rez, wondering if blind musicians would have an enhanced perception of the conversations we have and what it's like for them. It's a very vague account I just gave you of that little excerpt from the conversation. But the whole time, I have been hoping to bring on a couple of guests who are, for lack of a better term, blind and are probably dealing with certain struggles some of us might tend to underestimate in the increasingly visual nature of the music industry. I have had the privilege to work with Jens way back in the day. He's one of two blind musicians I've worked with. And as you'll probably get a feel for during the course of our conversation, I hold him in extremely high regard for multiple reasons, as I do his musical partner and wife Veronica as well. And when I found out that he's releasing his new solo album, I knew I had to bring him on and share some of his story with you. This guy is one of the most phenomenal musicians I've had the chance to work with and listen and observe. And I hope you find as much value and enjoy this conversation as much as I did. So without much further ado, please welcome Jens Gebel. Before we go ahead, this is me sending you a reminder again. This is a completely independent show. So if you want to show us your support, share us on your social media platforms, subscribe to us on a podcast platform of your choice, and just spread the word. Right, please welcome Jens Gebel and Veronica Reiff. Hello fellow beings, welcome to Tapasya Loading, a safe space to attempt honest, raw and authentic conversation in homage to the ancient act of stoking a sacred fire. This episode is brought to you by the Holistic Musician Academy, your home for 360-degree music mentorship, music, self-care, and artist development. So this is confusing. I use like a Zoom mixer as well. You know, the other Zoom, the old school Zoom, the hardware Zoom.
The Zoom, you mean like the recorders?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought one yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, because the new Essential series, it has voice guide, so I can access everything.
They actually sponsor the show, like they're part sponsors.
Thank you, Zoom.
So I'm using one of their podcast mixes. Yeah, thank you, Zoom. How are you doing today, man? It's been a while.
Oh, yeah, life is great.
Yeah?
Hair gets grayer, I guess.
I actually often start out these podcast sessions trying to remember the first time I met my guest. It's become like one of those funny rituals. A lot of the times it's just a ritual because I'm just trying to get the conversation started. But usually it'll always be an interesting story. And in your case, that is no exception. I vividly remember the first time I met you and the first time I heard you. It's still the kind of thing that gives me goosebumps.
Oh, thank you.
I heard you play at a workshop in Freiburg. You were accompanying this very well-known, regionally well-known singer-songwriter, Shane Brady.
Oh, yeah. I played the thing or not.
I remember with this one specific event where he asked you, hey, which key are we playing this song on? And I remember your reply was, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I know the song, so basically...
Well, they probably sound similar to you, but for the rest of us in the audience, I remember our jaws dropping because the implications are like, oh, so you mean you can pretty much play the song in every key? I know that's probably...
No, not as well.
Yeah?
No, I'm not... I never practiced songs in 12 keys. But I can, harmony-wise, if it's not too difficult, I can try it.
Yeah? What's your earliest memory of music, if I may ask? If that's not too cliche a question.
It has the radio on in our house. Mm-hmm. I was born and raised in a small town in the Black Forest. Mm-hmm. And my father was kind of a hobby musician. He played organ, sometimes with, the kind.
what they call the high marble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Kind of
those big beasts.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Do you remember which brand?
I think it was a value.
Yeah.
Not sure if they still exist.
I think they do. I think even up until like 4 years back, I think I remember seeing one in the Musikmesse 4 or 5 years back. Do you remember what it felt like? Like getting your hands on that instrument and like the sound that came out.
Oh yeah, I got it for Christmas.
Like
it was like a really exciting thing, of course. I tried to play what I heard kind of, on the radio, and then my dad showed me, there's the tree, there's the tree. I was 5 when I got this.
So were you learning music completely on your own in the earlier years?
Yeah, pretty much. My brother played clarinet in the orchestra of the town because I couldn't read. I was not.
Wait, because you couldn't read?
Yeah, because I couldn't read. They thought speak much like it. Actually, I had 2 teachers. One in my town, and I really liked her.
Mm-hmm.
So showed me all the stuff they had there in the school. Also, one time we played conga, and stuff. And it was not systematic enough for my parents with stuff. And then I got in school. I got a Braille teacher for reading music. Mm-hmm. But I didn't do it because for people who don't know, Braille is you read with your hands on the paper, and so if you learn, for example, the right hand for the piano, you read with the left hand and you play with the right. Then you have to learn the left hand. Then you have to learn it by heart anyway, and then I could do also with my ears. So with a logical tuning, and also hear it much easier, So I didn't learn it.
So you prefer just going straight and playing with you by ear instead?
Yeah.
So is it possible for, I'm just plain curious right now, is it possible for musicians who are visually impaired to actually have a career as a classical musician?
I don't know. I mean, if you learn by heart, the library is there, I think. Maybe even now jazz charts in the States, I'm not sure.
Please forgive my ignorance. I'm going to be asking a lot of ignorant questions tonight. I want to apologize in advance.
No, it's all good. You can ask me anything.
But I do want to dig in and find out more about this, because I just realized quite recently that exactly how ignorant I am. It's interesting. One of my very first guests was a guitar player and a good friend of mine called Reza Bassi. I think it was the second episode. This is the 80th episode we're recording, by the way. 81. 81.
Wow.
You'll be the 81st guest.
For me, it's the first, by the way. So,
really? Wow,
yes.
Congratulations. I'm super honored. I'm sure it won't be your last. And I remember one of the first topics we got into, me and Rez, were like, I wonder if visually impaired musicians actually have more depth in the manner in which they listen to music. And we seem to have agreed that I'm pretty sure you do. And I think I might have even referred to you as you're one of 2 visually impaired musicians I've played with.
You can say blind. I mean, I am.
What's the better term to use? Is it blind or visually impaired?
I would use blind. I mean, I have a little rest, essentially a little bit of light, but basically I'm blind when it's not a bad word, sometimes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's just the way it is. And visually impaired, more applies to people who have some rest some sides left.
Thanks for clarifying that. I really appreciate it. I also remember how you would recognize people the minute they enter the room.
Oh, no, I can't. I mean, if it's only one, of course, then if I know them.
No, obviously not a good rule, but you've done that with me, I remember. A couple of times, like pretty regularly. I'd enter the room and you'd say, oh, hi to you. And without me having said hello, you've done that.
Yeah, but you might have said something to somebody else.
No, I remember specifically a couple of times in the rehearsal room, me entering and you said, oh, hi to you. I remember.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Maybe the door was going and the other ones were there. I'm not psychic.
Maybe not, but how about like patterns like footsteps and stuff like that?
That's possible, but What meaning?
Because I remember distinctly at the time, and I remember actually like really etching that into my memory. Like, wow, Jens did that, and he didn't do it. It wasn't a coincidence. He's done that a couple of times.
Okay.
So I've always meant to like kind of check in with you and ask you if that's something you do on a regular basis, or if that's something that happens occasionally. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. My apologies. We were talking about your earlier years getting into music, playing music. How easy or difficult was it for you to engage with other musicians at the time when you started off?
I mean, when I started very young, so then I played mostly with my brother. But when I got older, we go somewhere, somebody has a guitar. I had bands all the time with friends.
Yeah?
In school, I was in a internat.
Boarding school.
And when there was holidays, and I'm actually glad when school starts again. So that's my back.
Yeah.
It's just a sad thing because I always went home. I had a band there, and we played, and we got gigs and stuff. And I had many most excited friends there, and with cars and stuff. I mean, I was really integrated.
Beautiful. What instruments were you playing at this point?
I was started with the organ that I talked about, and then I started playing guitar 2 or 3 years later. It was really hard, the guitar. It was big. I remember my dad showed me, okay, this is C major, and then the guitar, it's really hard. Not one of the easiest.
Really?
Yeah. And on the keys, it's so easy, I mean. So that was a disappointment.
And when did bass start happening?
Oh, much later, actually. I think I bought my first bass at the age of 13.
18?
Yeah, it was a Hone or a 5-string.
Wow. But I'm guessing you learned very quickly.
I mean, yeah, once you play guitar, but the function of the instrument is very difficult.
Do you feel like one of these is your primary one, or do they feel like the same to you at this point?
I think bass, I like that, but also keys. I'm not technically kind of a guy, but I like sounds and chords. I'm not the Speedy Gonzalez kind of guy on the keys.
Thank God. I remember intimately how you play, and I'm a fan, needless to say. May I ask you why bass feels like a primary instrument? I personally have a soft corner for bass too, because it's such a specific mindset, a lot of people play bass, but very few people really play bass. Like it's almost like a different lifestyle the way I see it. So may I ask you why you feel a specific affinity for it?
I think it's the rhythmical thing and also the melodic thing. Basically, you can play. How would I say that? You can play solo all the time if you stay in the groove. I mean, it depends on the music, of course.
So the amount of influence you can have on the harmony while still remaining monophonic, you mean?
Yeah, and also the rhythmical thing is nice. Getting into pockets with the drummer, the whole band. That's a nice thing.
Yeah, I love how you say that. Sometimes the way I throw my questions is a little non-linear. Please excuse me if it feels too.
It's fine.
When did you move to LA to study? And then how did that come about? I mean, it must have been quite a heavy decision to make. It's not the kind of thing people do lightly.
So a few friends of mine studied music in Bern, and another saxophone player, friend of mine from the same town, also studied there. And so I went a few times, and there was this great teacher, Frank Sikova.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
The training, him, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he was in the States before, also studying there. And he said, you should go to the States, go to the GIT or some school where you have a lot of practice. I mean, a lot of instrument-related stuff and less of the paper thing.
Do you remember why he specified you should study in the States instead of Bern or somewhere close by?
Yeah, because he thought it's easier there, because studying in Bern, if you cannot read music, and think it would have been a lot of hassle. I mean, it's just almost 30 years ago, so there was no inclusion or anything. So probably it didn't have worked out. So actually, I'm grateful that he recommended it. I went to the first sight reading lesson with the guys.
Sight reading lesson?
Sight reading, yeah. You know,
I'm a little confused. How does that work? Is it a special form of sight reading for blind musicians?
No, there is not. So I went there, in LA, in the school. Went there because it was a schedule. At the end of the lesson, guy comes over and said, "Yeah, have coffee when we do this."
Oh wow, he really figured that one out.
Oh yeah, it's pretty quickly actually.
Wait, so hang on. So they just sent a blind student to a sight reading class ad hoc, like no clarification, nothing.
No, that was. I think I was the first.
Okay.
Of course, I had a schedule like everybody else.
Okay.
Actually, I could do most of the classes.
But no one took a minute to figure out how to help you out.
Not beforehand. I mean, it's basically not possible. So.
Okay. Interesting. So how did you work around that entire thing? I'm guessing the sight reading module was eventually cancelled for you?
Oh, yeah. They said, we can't do that. You don't have to do this.
Do you have an opinion on the manner in which sight reading is used in music education in the western part of the world?
Yeah, it depends on the music. I'm going to say a thing. I'm not sure if everybody likes this.
You're on the right podcast to say things people don't like.
Yeah, great. No, I mean in the classical world, it's definitely necessary. Also, it's just playing a big band. Mm-hmm. But then, what I figured out is that with the music I play with the band, all the guys I played with, there's very few that can read as well, that it doesn't affect the way they play.
Bingo.
I think it's a mind thing, different parts of the brain, different sides.
Oh, yes, I know.
And I think it's problematic because you have to use both.
I've always concluded, and people don't believe me, but my primary fundamental music education was hence any kind of sight reading. So I would always say I hear it when people are reading, and even when they're really, really good readers, but I hear it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few, of course, that you don't hear it. Mostly you hear it. And that's why I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I can relate. I mean, full disclosure, I've had a very intense love-hate relationship with sight reading, which is a whole different story altogether. So I'm very open about my biases against it.
It's the eyes, in a way, are kind of the German word would be Umweg.
Umweg, detour.
It's a detour. You need your hands. For the instrument, you need to hear your ears to hear what the others do. And, I mean...
It's almost like latency happening.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk about this with Veronica? Because I know she's a fantastic reader.
Oh, yeah. She's a very good writer. She puts my music for the band. I played into Logic.
Yeah.
Kind of the way I wanted to be. And then she simplified it so it can be written out. And the guys can read it,
Brilliant. For our audiences, Veronica is Jens's wife, and she's a fantastic sax player and a flute player and an arranger who I've also had the pleasure of hanging out with. Do you folks ever talk about the differences in how you sound when you're working together with or without sight reading?
Maybe you ask her.
Is she around?
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, go for it, Veronica. You want to pitch in?
Go for it. Yeah, sure. Hi, Tia. Great to listen to you. It's so nice.
Likewise.
Yeah, fantastic. We're actually talking a lot about this reading and not reading. And since I grew up reading and playing in big bands and orchestras a lot.
You're like A1 reader, I remember.
Yeah, I know. I really like reading, but I also, through Jens and our work together, I learned to not read, which has a big advantage of just being much more in the music. So I really try hard to learn everything by heart, except like big band stuff and orchestral stuff.
So when you felt rehearse your own music, like the music of band Jens and your music, stuff you've co-written, what's the process? Do you stress on the musicians playing without the sheet music or rehearsing without the sheet music, or is it just everyone chooses whatever they prefer? Or I ask you because I know of a few bands, like I had the chance to hang out with one of Snarky Puppies members, for example.
Okay.
They have like a rule of thumb that they're not allowed to rehearse with music. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
Like they have to prepare the music without, like, eventually to be able to play a version without sheet music, except for the brass section.
Actually, that was Veronica's idea, which I really liked. She wrote the music and we sent my MP3s first.
Yeah.
So they already have an inkling how it should sound, but they hear the way it should be, and then they get the song.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, in a way, like sheet music, they were basically the old school MP3. So back in the day, you couldn't record an MP3 quickly and send it to someone, right? So you just write it out instead.
Yeah, there are so many things you cannot write down.
So true. So true.
There is just the length of the note and the pitch of the note. So all the phrasing and all the nice things, you just play, bah. This has no musical effect. So all the other things that you use basically cannot be written down.
I so agree. I mean, this must be a very strange era for you with all the AI-generated music that is starting to become like an industry standard. That's like a whole new level of weirdness in so many ways. What does that feel like for you? Have you heard any of it?
Yeah, what I heard until now didn't really make much sense.
Does it even sound like music to you?
I mean, well, I'm not sure. I didn't listen a lot to it. But it's interesting, of course. It will get better.
Could you tell me a little more about the nuances you think cannot be written down? What do you think is the most important thing in music that cannot be put down on paper?
The little things, actually, I would say.
Exactly.
I mean, there is a way to write down vibrato, but I mean, no two people have the same. So,
So if you'd like a specific kind of vibrato on a piece of music from someone you're working with, how would you like to describe it to them?
Oh, good question. And I have no answer. Usually I choose musicians for the track.
Great answer. It's becoming an increasingly visual world in the arts, even music. It's so weird that the primary channel for music promotion at this point is Instagram. It used to be a photo app.
Yeah.
If we take a step backwards and actually analyze what's happening, it's pretty crazy. Is that change in the zeitgeist something you feel, or does it completely go past you and not affect you?
Well, as you know, I will release an album, so it's of course important to get more listeners. And this is a really hard thing for me because, as you might imagine, I'm not a great picture-taking guy, so I cannot do the everyday. Just brush my hair, and so yeah, it's really difficult actually for me to do this. Veronica helps, of course, a lot. And my agent also, but and you have to do it.
Yeah.
So if you know somebody who wants to help me in my campaign, reach out.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned that. I actually used to work in PR for this really well-known PR firm in New York.
Oh, you're my guy. Good to know.
Oh, that's not what I was getting at. It was funny because the founder of this company is a lady called Ariel Hyatt. She's a bit of a legend in the independent music industry. She was on the podcast too. And she has this hybrid team thing where she keeps some artists working on the team as well. So she's in touch with the hands-on arts part of it. She comes from an era where a promo package was literally a package.
Yeah.
So she's been around for 25 years. So it was very, very, I need to work on PR for my releases too when I get there. But being on the back end of like a full-time PR company who's got that kind of experience, it was almost depressing for me as an artist. Not like the experience was obviously very lernreich, like I learned a lot, but it was very depressing as an artist to see how visually dependent and inherently oral art has become. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's almost like music isn't even oral anymore. It's represented completely on a very different platform. I struggle with it big time. A lot of the musicians I talk to struggle with it big time. I cannot imagine how frustrating it is for someone like you, who's putting out such high quality music and has to depend on something that probably feels a little out of context in order to promote it.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think the inherent visual nature of the music industry today is affecting the sound of music coming from artists now? Is it working the other way around?
I mean, the music I hear, I would say it stays the same. Of course, if you listen to the stuff that's on the radio, the songs are getting shorter. Attention span, Actually, it happens to me also. I'm not excluding myself.
Interesting.
If I don't like something, I just skip to the next thing.
Interesting. Tell me a little about that. What are you listening to these days? What did you grow up listening to? And who are your, this is a very cliched journalistic kind of a question, but what's the music you grew up on? Who are your musical idols?
When I was young, I listened to the radio, and then when I got in this band with these cool guys from my town, we listened to, and also played stuff from like Grover Washington, Lee Rittenauer, the 80s fusion thing.
But the two guys you named, they're like more like mellow fusion kind of folks, right?
Yeah, I mean, with 16, when you got older, you got more into this jazz vibe. Of course, you listen to Charlie Parker, Coltrane, Miles, and everybody else, of course. Mm-hmm. But with this band, when I was 16,
who were your favorite synth players at the time?
Corey Henry.
Okay.
What's his name?
Jake Sherman?
It's a good one. Yeah, he wasn't in a podcast, I think.
Yeah, he was. Jay
something with 3PO, like the...
Oh, J3PO. Yeah, J3PO. Yeah, I'm going to try and get him on too sometime.
Nicholas Penrod, of course.
Oh, yeah, I studied with him for a while. That guy.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
yeah. He's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, those kind of guys.
Yeah, so tasty. I'm glad. I'm very much in the same vein for a while.
Yes.
But do you remember, like back in the day when during your formative music years, did you have favorites back then on keys?
Kuno Schmidt was a kind of guy, played really well. A German guy.
I've never heard of him.
He plays with Spirelli Lagrange.
Right. Okay.
You got to check this out. There's a record also with Anthony Jackson.
Mm.
On bass, and there he plays keys really good.
Nice.
Russell Veronica, of course, always.
Oh, yeah, love that guy. Oh, yeah.
I've sent him a few of my songs, and he really liked it.
Really?
It was really nice thing to say.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Was this while you were in LA?
No, this was last year when they played here in Birmingham.
Beautiful. Okay. Let's rewind a little bit to LA, because I cut you off midway. But you were just telling me about how your first experiences were and how they sent you off to have a coffee instead during sight reading class.
Yeah.
How did the rest of your stay pan out at college?
Before I went there, I got the addresses of the guys also new, and there was a French guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm partly French. My mother was French.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And we just called him and said, could you imagine to live with a blind co-student? And he said, yeah, why not? So, yeah, great. Friend of mine came with me with his wife to LA, and they stayed for 2 weeks so that I could learn, from home to the school and to groups like LA Cafe, and to learn the orientation kind of. And then I was there and lived with Laurent, the French guy. And I could go to school alone. It was a big culture shock.
Yeah?
Yeah, all the sirens and police and helicopters, the like in the movies, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And with a big gate in front of the house, and I thought, well, never can go there out alone on my own. Actually, there was kind of a gang in the street on the opposite side of my street, and they were really cool guys. You know, they could, of course, have taken my guitar, banging me over the head, you know, and selling stuff for whatever they needed. But they always ask more like, do you find yourself, do you find work? And we help you in some, you know, like actually a really nice thing. They have kind of a, I know how you were saying. Yeah, they were really okay with me, kind of. I was not anxious.
Do you think they were looking out for you?
Probably they would have, yeah, possible.
It's so beautiful, man. What was the rest of the culture shock like?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, you know, there are sirens all day and night, and yeah, I just to be there. It's loud everywhere, and the language. I mean, of course, I could speak English.
So communication was not a problem then?
No. When I left, somebody asked me, I cannot place from which state you are. So, of course, now my German accent is back. My English was good then.
Your English is still great.
Much better than now. But
you say that, but your English is still great.
I'm an Audible customer since '98 or something.
That helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed. I mean, I think for people who navigate cultures that are beyond one country, the accent is a thing. The accents keep changing. My accent keeps changing all the freaking time. That's any consolation. That's like that could be a whole different podcast. In fact, I actually recently did a podcast on this, like changing accents. I have a free gift for you, my friend. No strings attached, legit free gift. What if you could have your entire career as an independent musician presented to you on one page, all of the aspects you needed to be aware of, starting from creativity to collaboration, stuff most musicians are a little less privy to, like PR, other aspects of music business, down to self-care, and a very lucid display of how all of these elements are interlinked. What if you could have one page which gave you an overview on all of that? I can give you that page, and it's up for a completely free download. Please go check the episode notes. You'll find a link there. One page, an entire overview of an independent musician's career. And in case you're wondering why I'm doing this, I want to build an ecosystem of holistic, happy musicians and artists who are building their careers in a fulfilling manner on their own terms. So if this is something that resonates with you, go download the Artist Roadmap. And do you remember your first playing experiences in LA, like the first jam session you attended and the first
yeah, I do. It was a jazz session.
What was that like?
Oh, it was pretty it happens sometimes. You know, the blind guy goes there with his guitar, and there are the guys, you know, they play that for years, and, you know, they're playing. You plug in and you play, and then after the oh, you try great, and, you know, so blah blah blah, and talking a lot of stuff, but just because I could play, which is like a strange thing. What they can do, they're really nice, mostly.
Did it feel different? Did the vibe feel different? Did the approach, the manner in which the musicians were approaching the music, the room, the vibe, did it feel different?
I mean, of course it was exciting because it was the first session with all these Americans that were okay players, really good actually. But this thing, you know, that they don't talk to you until they know that you can play. I don't like to sing.
Oh, no. How interesting.
I don't know the English words for plattfilsch.
What's the word again?
Plattfilsch.
No, I don't know that. I actually don't know the English word either. But anyway.
You know, they're the guys of this club. They're the cool...
Like local heroes.
Local heroes, yeah.
Yeah. I ask because you're one of three German musicians I played with who had a background in the US. The other two being my friends Torsten de Winkel, and Kai, who has studied with.
Great. But
I noticed that European musicians, especially like German or French, but especially German musicians who studied in the States and have like a history there, they have a very specific sound. And it's very different to a quintessential jazz Musikhochschule sound, or even like a German-bred sound. Is that something you would agree with, or would you refute it?
Like Germans have a specific sound, like German?
A specific generation from Germany who studied in the States had a very unique sound. There is a sound that was very unique to that specific demographic, and there were quite a few.
Could you name a few more?
Let's see now. I know the three of you, specifically you, Torsten and Kai. Let's see now. I think there were... no, actually, you three are the only ones I know.
I'm not sure. Never thought about this that way. Actually, I don't think that you would be recognizing that this guy is German.
But if you heard them in Germany, would you recognize that they'd studied in the States?
No, and for me, it's also not about studying. I mean, there are many people that cannot read music and they don't know great players. So,
just to clarify, when I say study, I'm not saying going to college, but study like played or learned in the States.
I don't know.
Do you think the sound changes, the approach changes, or the vibe changes a bit?
I'm not sure, actually.
Cool.
Let's ask Remo. What's her name? I'm just asking my wife if she thinks there's that way.
Yeah. What does Veronica think?
I do think that the whole bunch of you guys who were in LA at that time had a really great personal sound. Everybody.
Yeah.
So I think
I know, right? That's what I thought.
Maybe that's a thing what was at the studies here not so much valued,
Yeah.
This kind of really make it personal. And I see what you mean.
I see what you mean. I mean, it also depends, of course, if you got the same teachers. For example, I mean, I studied with Gus Henderson when I play guitar.
Wow.
There are basically that I did this every week, kind of played flutes or something with him.
Wow.
So, he was a teacher at the GIT. Also, Jody Orio, and there were some great guys. And of course, you unintentionally pick up some stuff.
Of course.
Yeah. That might be the reason, but this is not the nationality thing. All the guys.
No. I wasn't really aiming for the nationality angle at all. It was more the cultural mix of a certain generation of European musicians during a specific era who spent a lot of time in the States honing their craft, resulting in a very specific hybridish kind of a sound, which doesn't sound quintessentially American and doesn't sound quintessentially European either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a difference. I think the Dutch are very close to the Americans. I went there a few times to clubs and I thought, that's the way. And that sounded really like closer to American than maybe the Germans.
I did not know you studied with Scott Henderson, by the way. I know, of course, that he taught there, and I know you had a really good run as a student there, but I didn't know he was your teacher. How was that? What was that like?
I just open counseling with many teachers there. It's part of the program there. They come, sit there 2 hours or 4, and you go in, and they play, and then they say, couldn't work on that, or I couldn't work on that. What's this chord? And that's really great because 4 or 5 people sitting there, or sometimes it's really crowded there. You get something from every other student also. So I really like this approach, where you have a room, where you have 3 guys, and the teacher and everybody's going in line and playing a song, and then you have your questions yourself, they answer you and they say, actually, next week, you come back and we play this again and see what we worked on. And of course, I played always jazz because I never worked. That's I mean, that's basically everything in breaking, all the stuff you can do. You can, of course, do in a jazz piece.
Were you shedding a lot at the time? Were you practicing all day? Were you doing like the quintessential music student thing?
Yeah. Except sight reading, of course. I always said, okay, guys, go there. Reading sucks. And so a girlfriend of mine made me a T-shirt also of reading sucks that I wore. Really? That I wore many times, of course.
Can I have that T-shirt?
I'm not sure if we got it, but if we find it, I can send it to you.
I'm like the shittiest sight reader in the world, but yeah. That makes me feel
probably better than me.
Probably. I'm just about probably. Were you the first blind student the teachers were working with?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure of all the teachers. Of course, they might have known somebody else, but I probably was the first in school there.
Gotcha. You mentioned the word inclusion, which is thrown about so often these days, but this is a very, very different era we're talking about. Which year was this?
1993 to 1994.
93, 94. It's a very, very different era. And
yeah, it's 30 years ago. Well,
the inclusion aspect to it, did you feel included? Did you feel like people were making an effort to quote unquote integrate? Yeah.
Staff was really nice, and students, of course. I mean, they're all going there for a year, so you're all in the same boat, kind of, and And I could speak French, and so I got pretty much with the French crew, and also the guy that I lived with.
So, why didn't you hang around longer? Did you always know you wanted to return to Germany, or was it?
Actually, a few friends of mine and me thought of staying there. I had, at the end, I played a session with David Goldblatt. I don't know if you know him.
David
Goldblatt? Great keyboard player. Played the tribal tech before Scott Kingley.
Oh, nice. No, I didn't know him.
And he said, it's a school, you should teach there and stuff. And have your time for a gig there on April something. And I was going back before that because there was a terrible event. There was a big earthquake in January of 94.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And that was pretty scary. And so I thought, no, I'm not going to stay.
So you kind of felt homesick?
Maybe a little, but basically the earthquake, 6.8, that's really...
God, yeah, that's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah.
I
didn't buy this T-shirt. The days after you could buy, I survived 6.8, so... But I didn't get this one. Yeah, it's pretty scary when you're like waking up, sitting in the bed, and the bed and the floor moves kind of up and down. So then it was clear, okay, I do this till the end, and then I go home. Go home, and now I live in Freiburg, which is also an area where they could be.
Yeah, good old Freiburg. I miss it, man.
Come back. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, I do. I don't know if you remember, but I do have family there, and I keep visiting them. And they're part of my family moved there in the 50s, right? To Germany.
And where are you now? Are you in India now, or?
I'm currently right now. I am in India, but I'm based out of Berlin most of the time, and then I'll spend my winters mostly in Asia.
We're sometimes in Berlin.
Yeah, we should definitely make sure we meet next time you're around.
Okay. But when are you coming back?
May. So May to September.
That could work out. Yeah.
It's an interesting mix. I'm also transitioning into the role of a caregiver for my mom, and my dad passed very quickly, like out of the blue, this January. Oh. So a lot of changes happening.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you. But circling back, do you remember how you felt musically, like when you got back to Freiburg after 2 years in LA? That's quite a contrast culturally.
Oh, it was even bigger because I went back to the States. in this town where I come from.
Oh.
And of course, I have no driver's license, so that was kind of a hole that you go into.
That must have been tough, man.
And it was hard, but then I had a few friends, also from that I met there from Freiburg. And they said, yeah, we're going to move into a house. We found a house and all the musicians. Actually, I also moved there then, and we were all musicians at the beginning of the time. We're pretty much a band kind of thing.
Nice. So the band moved in together?
Yeah, we could play with them.
When you graduated from college, do you remember how you felt? Did you have like a plan for a career or an agenda, or were you just going with the flow and sticking to the music and letting the art do the work for you?
That's yeah, I know. I knew I wanted always to do music, kind of. Even at school, I mean, when I was 16, I also knew. And after graduating, I did 2 years in the music store, kind of in the apprenticeship. That's what I was doing.
But what was it like after you finished your studies in LA and then when you got back to Germany? What was that like? Because I ask, because most musicians who go to college, get a degree or a diploma, they want to kind of figure out a way to get a return on the investment that they put into the college. So what was your plan? Did you have a plan, or were you just happy having that experience?
I was just happy to have experience, and of course, wanting to work in music.
Nice.
Takes time to get known, especially if you have the driver's license and cannot appear on every jam session in the area.
But your career did take off. I mean, eventually you've gotten a string of awards, and you've played with some of the most well-respected names in the jazz arts ecosystem in Germany. How did you make that happen?
I got this award from the Paris Music Festival, which is a Freiburgian festival.
Yeah.
3-4 weeks, you know that.
Yeah, sure, I know. From our audiences, it's probably one of the largest music festivals in the south of Germany, probably even like Southern Europe even.
And I got this award for basically for the CD I did with Veronica, my band then. And the other band that's got an award was Top.
Yeah.
And 2 of the members, basically the 2 main members, moved to Freiburg the year before that.
Okay.
And then, of course, we had to do, there was one big festivity for the awards,
And
then we had to play together. Basically, also, it's all my tool. And I played bass with my band and also with them. And then we talked and I said, yeah, well, I mean, if you ever need someone to play, I can also play keys. Not expecting anything. And months later, they called me from 96 to 2014.
Oh, nice. I hadn't realized it was actually that long.
Yeah, we played in Europe, and we played in Ukraine, Spain,
Yeah, I remember.
What's nice? Good band.
Do you think the live music industry, for lack of a better term, the live music scene at the time had a different life to it than the way it is now? Was it a lot different?
I'm not sure. I'm not playing that much nowadays. I mean, very few gigs, of course. And it's getting better now. I think people... I'm not sure if maybe it's like people appreciate more that there's live music again, like the Corona thing. So people come when we play and enjoy it. But I mean, people enjoyed it also before.
So you don't feel a major difference happening?
Do you?
I'm trying to gauge. That's a good question. Thanks for asking. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people... Oh, were you asking Veronica? I'm sorry.
I'm listening, but I was also asking her.
We should. Yeah, Veronica should pitch in too. I feel like the real one-on-one engagement between musicians and like back in the day, it used to be a thing. Musicians used to really go out and try to like meet new musicians. It was part of the thing you did as a musician. I feel like that doesn't work the same way it used to. Some of it for the better because you can get in touch with people online, but some of it also is like this visceral aspect to it doesn't really exist the way it did earlier on. What about Veronica? What do you think?
I think it's from the financial aspect. It's very hard to live from it at the moment because anything got much more expensive, but all the money you get for gigs didn't rise as much. But also I see a big need in people to enjoy live music and get together and meet. And so I think there's still a great value what we bring in just doing the music we love.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Yes, and I do agree with both of you, by the way, that there does seem to be a renewed sense of gratitude for live music, like the act of actually going and see real human beings on a stage playing real time. I think we have rediscovered a sense of gratitude for that experience. We're coming to the last 10 minutes, by the way, and I do want to make sure I utilize it to talk about your new album. Tell us more about it. Fill us in. What's going on with this album? How did it come about?
Okay.
What's the message behind it? And how can we support you in its release?
Yeah. Oh, so many questions. All right. So I wanted to do my own thing for a change, kind of, And I thought, what should I do? What could be, as I'm not playing acoustic bass. Actually, this funny thing. Many people say you can't play jazz with an electric bass. Did you hear that before?
Yeah, I've heard some purists talk about how jazz has to be an upright bass, but needless to say, I don't agree. I mean, hashtag Steve Swallow says it all,
Yeah. I try to make music that has it's not only for jazz musicians. I tries to make singable melodies, not like a smooth jazz thing, but it's really jazz. It has its jazz moments. It has I want other people to listen to it that are maybe not jazz fans, because I think they can get something out of this.
I love that. The accessibility, making it accessible.
Yeah, I thought, who's the guys who would want to play with, and what kind of music could that bring, what could it do? And I knew the guys, of course. Dominic Landorf, great sax and bass clarinet player, and Michael Art, and Daniel Schei, who is a guy from the area, and is a Brazilian band, and he plays Pandero. So I thought, let's meet with the guys. I sent them a few songs. In 2018, I think I did this. And it worked out really great. We recorded the rehearsals and we made a few songs. And then
I'm curious, if I may ask you again, sorry to interrupt you again. You say it worked great. I'm curious, when does a jam session like that qualify as great for someone like you?
Oh, when you play 3 bars and you hear it's working.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Which also you're hearing just doesn't.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
That's kind of a mutual feel.
Did you folks have a history? Had you played together earlier on?
I played with all of them, but not in the same context.
Gotcha.
So that's why I knew I want these guys.
Nice. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, then of course with the Pandero, that plays with some Brazilians also in LA. It's all the sun in that music, Then we got a funding for doing the record from the government because of the Corona crisis. Like a kind of cultural support thing. And then I said, okay, now we're going to do this.
When were you writing the music? Was this material from prior phases?
There was some prior stuff. You know, sometimes you go to the piano and you play something and it's nice and it works and that's good. But then I had to write 4 songs before the recording. When the recording was set, sometimes you get no inspiration, and especially, I mean, I sit in front of the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, now write a song. Well, okay, well, that doesn't work for me. Maybe for some people it works. So I tend to set myself kind of a challenge thing, which helps me, at least. So I thought, okay, I have this intro, with a few guitar chords and stuff, and this could be kind of a song. I basically write mostly the chords first because I'm a chord guy, and then the melodies, and Veronica writes the melodies first, and she's a sex player. The title song of the album called Tuesday, and that's the song where you can sing an E through the whole song.
Oh, you can sing an E throughout the whole song?
Yeah, there's in every chord there's an E.
Beautiful.
That was the challenge for this.
Oh, that was I missed out that part. That was the challenge. So one.
Yeah, I set myself a challenge.
Yeah.
Because I had this intro. 4 chords, a minor, a major, a minor, something.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, how can we do an interesting song with interesting chords that are not only A minor, that contains an E?
Do you folks do a lot of co-writing when you're hanging out, like you and Veronica? What's it like being a musical couple? I can imagine it's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, we wrote a few songs. Sometimes it's like Vero has a melody and I come up with some chords for it.
So are these usually spontaneous situations, or do you like have fixed times where you folks hang out and do rehearsals or sessions?
Oh no, it's open.
Oh, that's beautiful though.
Whenever somebody has a song. She has a band also where I'm playing keyboards.
Yeah.
We always try out things. It's also very open.
I wanted to add something about the co-composing.
Yes, please.
We did a lot of great stuff when we had to kind of work with the circus. We composed the music for the whole show, and we did it while they were rehearsing. So, for example, the Einräder on the Jens' new album is first. It's a one-wheel bike. No, the bike was only one wheel.
Oh yeah, like unicycle.
Unicycle. That's it. Yeah. So Einräder is the German word for it.
Yeah. We
actually composed it, or Jens composed that song for the unicycle number on the circus show. Things happen when we often do jam sessions with one or 2 other musicians in our studio. And then sometimes something comes up and we think, oh, that's nice. Let's keep that. Yeah. And basically, I'm more the melody person, and Jens is doing great arrangements or chords to my song.
Beautiful. Do you butt heads while co-writing?
No. I would say no.
What would Veronica say?
No, actually, it's mostly very clear, like, which song it is. So the other one tries not to support.
Gotcha.
Sometimes when Jen composes, and she's just so free in composing and write really incredible stuff that's just so cool to listen to. But it's actually really hard to play and even harder to put into rhythm. So, we had some discussions there.
Yeah, I can imagine. I like how you use the word discussions. That sounds about right. But it sounds like you folks really have a very, like, an inspiring and very functional, respectful relationship
I would say so.
Going on as a musician. Yeah, that's so inspiring. That's always beautiful. I'm going to have another musician couple on soon.
Okay.
Where I actually address this. They're both very, very credible artists individually, but also play together. And I find it fascinating. It's never worked for me. The 2 times I dated a musician, it was a catastrophe. So I'm clearly not as good at this as you are. So I'm always curious to find out about this specific dynamic. So mad respect. Beautiful. Jens, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners? Anything I missed out on?
Oh, yeah. That I put Braille lettering for my name and the album title on the CD. You should. You can also read it if you can read Braille. I know Stevie Wonder had it on a vinyl, early 80s or late 70s, on one record. But if you buy this CD, you can read the name in the dark. Support. Let's listen. Support your artist. I mean, we all use Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music, which is great because you can find a lot of music there. Mm-hmm. But if you like something, buy it. Mm-hmm. Because once the subscription expires, it's all gone, firstly, and you do something for the musicians you like. So I think this is really, really important that to say that check it out on Spotify. If you like something, buy it and support your artist.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. A lot of audiences simply don't understand that. Like, they probably want to support artists, but really don't realize that you're not doing that if you're streaming on Spotify.
Yeah. The 0.0 something cents you get for a click, this is really nothing.
Yeah. It really means a lot to the artist if you're actually taking that extra step of supporting them by buying a CD or going to a concert or subscribing to their Patreon or whatever it is. I don't know if you use Patreon, but it really makes a big difference.
I have a label which sells my physical and also the downloads.
There you go. You have a label.
And you can, even in India, if you have a record store there, you can order the CD.
FYI, all links are going to be included on the episode notes. So for my audiences, please make sure you go check them all out. But for those of my audiences listening right now, what's the quickest one handle to find you on?
You can find me under jensgebel.com. That's JENSGEBEL. And also you can follow me on Spotify and Facebook.
JENSGEBEL.com, folks. We'll support these amazing artists. I would say I'm going to stop recording now, FYI. Gratitude from the bottom of my heart for listening to the very end. Please consider taking a minute to subscribe to our shows so you know when the next episode is out. This is a labor of love, one I hope snowballs into one that's sustainable in its attempt to support independent thought and authentic relating. And having you as a regular member of our audience is what makes that a realistic prospect. Much love, and talk soon. Just another voice out there.